Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Quesnel City Council meeting number 1 of 2024. I know it's not 2024 yet, but we're into our 2024 year. For Tuesday, November 21, I'd like to, first of all, acknowledge that we don't have Councillor Runge and McKelvey with us tonight, but Director Bolton and Councillor Rudenberg are joining us through the wonders of modern technology, so welcome on Zoom. I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize that we meet on the traditional territory of the LHTAKO DENE Nation. I'll be looking for a motion to approve the agenda, but we do have some late attachments. It wouldn't be a council meeting if there were no late attachments. The first one is L2 or I2, which is the Policy and Bylaw Committee Chair Summary of the Policy and Bylaw Committee meeting held October 26th. And from Council Information Package, we have some correspondence that I would like to move forward. And a couple of late changes. We're going to move staff report number K12 up to the top of the agenda because we have Chief Reichert that needs to get to fire practice, so we're not going to hold him up. And also, we have a gentleman in the audience that is here regarding item number K9, and so that you don't have to sit through the entire meeting, we're going to bring that up to the top of the agenda. Yeah, that's it. That's it. So if I can get a motion to adopt the agenda, okay. Yeah, thank you.
Elliott.
Councillor Elliott and Councillor... I'm having trouble with names tonight. Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, so adoption of the minutes for October 2-4. Councillor Elliott, Councillor Vic, thank you. And I got to pay attention to the screen there. So if I find that I'm not, please voice up, Councillor Rudenberg. Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder for the minutes. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. So now we would like to, we don't have any presentations, but we do have a delegation, and that's the North Cariboo Seniors Council, Colleen Gauthier, President, and Jonathan Fine, Director. So if you could make your way up to the front, to the microphone, and make sure that you press the little button, and as soon as the ring around the top of the microphone glows red, you know that you are that you're live. So the floor is yours.
First of all, I'd like to say good evening and thank you, Mayor Paull and councillors, for hearing our request for consistent funding. I'll start with a review, a short review of who we are, because I know some of you might have already seen this, the beginning of the year with John. So who are we? So at this point, as you can see, that back in 2019, the city was aiming to be age-friendly, and they put out the call, and volunteers answered the call to form the North Cariboo Senior Council. And actually, for the first year, most of it was run mostly by volunteers. But thankfully, in 2020, the funds were granted from the city that enabled us to not only form the society and establish an office, but also hire a part-time coordinator who had both office and grant writing skills. Because as you can imagine, as volunteers, we came from many different walks of life, but many of us were not in any way, shape, or form used to working in an office and what that entailed and things like this. So this fund was part of the city's COVID startup grant and would be be divided into 3 years, ending this year in 2023. So as I said, so that's kind of a wee bit of a background as to who we are. We are still 9 volunteers, and we do have our part-time coordinator, as I said, that we were able to hire, and that has continued. We have had different coordinators, but at least we've had the funds to hire a coordinator. Now next, what do I do again? This one? That one? Okay, so our mission, of course, we created our mission, which is still our mission today, which is very important, of course, that I'll leave you a few minutes to read it over. So it's one part, and of course, we continue to work on this mission statement to, because it's and our goals, which I will go on to. And again, so this is our goals, and since basically they've remained the same, so it's definitely a work in progress. So where are we now, 3 years later? Which brings us to now. So throughout the last 3 years, as I said, we've been working on our mission and goals, and thankfully the funds from the city have helped us because of our coordinator, who has in many ways been around to help organize many of the programs that we are now offering, as well as be on the lookout for times to collaborate with others. So our programs. So our office, of course, is very, very important now. We do share it down with the Downtown Association. It is open 3 days a week for people to come in. And thankfully, we're getting more and more well-known, so people don't confuse us with the senior council, or sorry, senior center as much, which is nice. Again, telephone, we get many calls now that we are getting to be known from not just clients, but actually other organizations are also contacting us, or other agencies, to see and talk about ways that we can work together. We do have a regular newsletter, and I brought some tonight, so I can give them out to everybody. Your evening reading for later. We also have a yearly information booklet, which we have out, which I've also brought this evening, which has got all the phone numbers very much connected to seniors and the agencies, not just in Quesnel, but Quesnel and area. And it has been compiled again by volunteers, and then, of course, through funds and grants that we were able to get it published. And our website, which our coordinator is trying to, that's our next thing that we have to update a little bit more. So she's working on that at this point. So, the other programs. One of our main programs is our meal program. As it said, their frozen meals are delivered once a month to approximately 60 seniors. Most are in Quesnel, but there are some in the outlying areas. The minimum they get is 2 frozen meals. And it's all, of course, done through volunteers and donations, as well as, grant funding. So as it says there, that community involvement is huge, because, again, we have to thank many of the churches and organizations who not only volunteer their time, but sometimes their space, like the churches, the kitchens, as well as they donating the food for that. Sorry. Lately, we have also been connected with Nourish Bank BC. So they now, like last month it started, that they now also make soup once a month. So when our volunteers go to deliver the 2 meals, which are now in our office, we have freezers that they come and we put them in and freeze them, and then the volunteers come to our office, pick them up on the Friday. The 3rd Friday of the month is usually when we deliver them. They now go over to Nourish Bank BC, and they have about a litre of soup for them. And the food for the soup has come from the Nourish Bank, and is being cooked by one of the teachers at the Christian school and with her class. So again, working in collaboration with them, that we now have soup as well as the meals. So as I said, the meal program is a very important part of what we do. Other programs we have, of course, is yard works during the fall and summer, spring, summer, and a little bit of the fall. This, again, is for clients who have got maybe mobility issues or just unable to keep their yard cleaned or their grass mowed, things like that. As you can see, popular, 30 people, and there's often people on the waiting list. The difficulty sometimes does come with hiring someone. We are at times get a grant for it, but it's not a job everybody wants because of the hours and things like this. The one, though, that's often harder, actually, is snow removal, just because you have to wait for a snowfall, and then everybody wants them on the same day, at the same time. And again, we have about 30 clients on that and more on the waiting list. So this has just all been happening, again, I want to reiterate, in the last 3 years that this is, that we have been in progress and working on this. And again, I have to stress the importance of having somebody at the helm, kind of a coordinator in the office, to answer those calls and things like this. So, as you can see, it helps seniors who would otherwise be shut in. It also provides access for emergency services if it need be, which is very important. So this is, and thankfully we have hired a gentleman for this season, so we do have someone. We'll see how much, how the money run or lasts, but so far so good. We do have someone. The other is on to some of our other programs. So we are currently, in March, we became the host organization for United Way's Better at Home program. And of course, as you can see, it provides services to many clients, and they've actually expanded to many other areas outside of Quesnel. So that's a huge program right there. The other one is the free income tax referral service, that we're working with that. And we also have a transportation service, which we distribute approximately 50 passes to seniors each month. The other one, actually, that's not here, that we have been working with a bit, is with emergency services. That a number of years ago, we worked with the Senior Centre, and they had a Senior Expo, and one of the workshops was with emergency services. And we had received, we being the council, the North Cariboo Senior Council, had received a grant to buy small overnight red emergency grab bags, and we had a few left over, so I contacted Jennifer from ESS, and actually this January we're going to go into some of the apartments and put on a little workshop, and again give the seniors the little grab bag and know what to put in it, because that's what Jennifer will do. We'll have a sample one, and then they get a little bag and go back to their room, so they don't have to leave, especially in the winter. Head out into the snow, not fun. Okay, now it comes to the big one. Money, money, money. How much does it all cost? Well, of course, it's not cheap. So operating costs, you can see, so for the rent and insurance and things, all of that, yearly is approximately close to $28,000. Now, of course, we also have to make allowances for mishaps. Now, currently, just 2 weeks ago, the freezer in the office, which stores most of our meals, broke down. So right now, like, we've got a gentleman in to try to fix it, but I haven't heard the outcome. He came, he brought a fan. No, it's still not working. He's going to come with something else mechanical. Don't ask me what it is. And I asked him if he could call and tell us how much this is going to be to repair. This is vital, this freezer, for us. It really is, because, as I said, this is where we freeze the meals to bring to the seniors. Is there an alternate thing that we could do? Yes and no. Like, we could look at Sprout Kitchen possibly. I spoke to Jennifer at Nourish Bank BC. So, but you can imagine it's just another big hiccup, basically, with the freezer. So fingers crossed he can fix it at a reasonable price. But it is an expense, and it might be that we have to buy a new one, which again is an expense. So It all contributes to the operating costs of the office. And then our program costs, which are mostly covered by by grants. And there you can get an idea as to. Now, of course, it looks really big, but you have to remember Better at Home, which is funded by United Way. That's a big lump sum that United Way give over 2 years. Not 2 years, what am I saying? They give it twice a year, so half and half. And then it's given to Better at Home for them to run their programs. So anyway, so the program costs that we are delivering, you can, that will be your other evening work, is to work that out in your head. You can add those 3 top ones together. Okay. These are some of our past sponsors and our present ones. So you can see the city definitely has been a huge factor in the last 3 years in helping us maintain our office and our coordinator to keep us all organized and keep this going, as well, of course, as funds from the other ones that you're seeing there, which are also like Rotary, Lions Club, Northern Health in a number of different ways, and now, like I said, through Nourish Bank BC. So, as I said, we're very grateful to all of them, and we wish to increase that and keep it going. So what are we here for? Money, 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 of course. So that we can maintain what we have been doing. So as you can see, most of the programs are for the best part, covered by grants. The big one is our operating costs of the office, which is not covered by grants. And as I said, the money that the city had received for COVID startup and was giving to the North Cariboo Senior Council has been fabulous in the past with keeping this going and starting the works, the mechanisms, keeping it going, basically. Because we as volunteers, as you know, we come from different walks of life, as I said at the beginning. And to keep it going, we would burn out, honestly, because we're the ones often supplying the program. We're the ones delivering. We're the ones, making the meals or this and that, all these other things, shall we say. So, we really do need somebody in the office on a permanent basis, and for that we need consistency with funds. So, as said, the board has expertise in many fields, and we've donated many hours volunteering for the council and seniors. However, we cannot do it all, nor be expected to do it all. This is why it is important we maintain an office with a hired coordinator who is paid for their time and expertise in applying for grants, reaching out, spotting, and seeking opportunities to collaborate with other senior agencies. This is something, too, that United Way and government are also working towards, that more and better collaboration, which has always been our mission. And as I said, we've only been going for 3 years, and I feel we've done an awful lot in that short span of time, with COVID also in the middle of it. So over the last 4 years, seniors have begun to know and rely on us. So it is important we maintain and increase the connections, programs, and momentum we have all worked hard to bring into existence here in Quesnel and area. At this time, this can only be done with consistent operating funds from the city. Thank you for your listening and consideration. And are there any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Colleen. Very well presented. So I'll open up the floor to questions. Nobody? Councillor Vic.
Thank you, Colleen.
You're welcome.
You did great.
Thanks.
Obviously, I'm the liaison from the City of Quesnel City Council to this group. Everything you articulated very well. The only thing I would add a little more emphasis to is those building of relationships, which the group has done a phenomenal job, especially becoming the host agency for Better at Home, a tremendous organization in itself, but with that synergy with the North Cariboo Seniors Council, the future is very bright for both of those groups. And I'm so happy that the North Cariboo Seniors Council could take a leadership role and host that agency and frankly meet its mandate in terms of promoting an age-friendly community. So thank you for your presentation, and we'll definitely take what you've said very seriously, and undoubtedly we'll get referred back to Finance for deliberation, I believe.
Okay.
Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for the presentation. Very informative. And yeah, just in 3 years, there's been a lot accomplished. There's no doubt about it. I was talking to Dr. Fine before the meeting, and it's one of the challenges that cities and municipalities face is that there's wonderful programs that come out from the province, and then eventually there's going to be downloading. But this is a great program. I can't speak for the finance committee or anything else, but at this point. But we'll see what we can do. I'm just curious with all these wonderful initiatives. How many? Do you know the numbers between the city individuals and as compared to the CRD?
That we serve, like clients that we have. We did look into that. Now, hold on a wee minute. Now, think back. I think it was, say if there's around 60 to 65 clients that we have, I would say about 20
in the regional district, yeah.
Yeah, about 20 in the regional districts. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Good luck with everything.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Anyone else before I jump in? Actually, Councillor Elliott kind of asked the same question that occurs to me, and that is that we have more people living, of the people that call Quesnel home, most of them live outside the city limits. And it would be great to see the regional district participating in this, maybe not necessarily to the same extent, but maybe based on your participatory numbers. So I don't know if you have actually asked the regional district.
We have, yes, because Mary Schuster actually often comes to our meetings, and she is a partner, like Vic with the, with Mitch with the city. So she does come to our meetings, and we did give her figures, and I believe she did approach the regional board with it, but.
The problem with the regional district is their structure and the lack of flexibility in order to find the funds. It's not that they're unwilling to provide us with funds, it's just that they have to jump through hoops, possibly even hold a referendum in order to do that.
Yeah, I understand how it works. They have these firewalls around their functions, and I appreciate how that works. It's different than at the municipal level. But having said that, I am aware that the regional directors individually for their electoral areas do have some minimal ability to contribute to different functions or different projects. And so we'll not lose track of that one. Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you.
So Mayor Paull, are you going to follow up on that too?
Oh, I think that both of us should follow up on that.
Excellent. Yeah.
The more the merrier.
The more the merrier. That's right.
Thank you. Anyone else with a question before we move on? Okay, well, thank you, Colleen and John. Very well done. And like I said, like Councillor Vic says, it will get referred to our Finance Committee, and we'll be bringing it back with a decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, the next item is, we're going to bring up one other item. Oh, no, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I got two items that I'm going to bring forward, but before we do that, we're going to item number I1, which is the October 26 Policy and Bylaw Committee Chair Summary, Councillor Runge. And unfortunately, Councillor Runge was unable to join us tonight, so his report is in front of you, and it's actually a late agenda item. And the only thing that was really discussed at the October 26 meeting was revitalization tax exemptions. And there wasn't really a recommendation so much as direction from the committee to staff to prepare a bylaw amendment to extend the multi-unit revitalization tax exemption for an additional 4 years and extend the boundaries as recommended in the North Fraser Drive revitalization plan. So that will be coming back to council, and it's just for information at this point. So don't ask me any questions because I don't have the answers. Okay, so the next one is committee report number I-2, November 1, 2023, Financial Sustainability and Audit Committee Chair Summary, Councillor Vic.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we held a meeting on November 1st, and I'll review some of the nuts and bolts of that meeting. Some of it is coming back. I believe Director Bolton hasn't joined our meeting yet, but she'll be coming in to talk about the comprehensive fees bylaw update. At least we hope she's going to be here. Oh, she's here. Good. Also, in terms of the, later on in the report, I talk about the fire truck, and I believe our chief is going to cover that off in a report. So I'll skim over those items quickly. So first, we touched on the minor changes that will be made to the purchasing policy to update some of the limits due to general price inflation that's occurred and to ensure the efficiency of the city's processes. These include increasing the amount that can be purchased without a PO of up to $5,000, increasing the amount that requires 3 written quotes to $10,000, and increasing the amount that requires a formal solicitation document to $75,000. And that's driven largely by inflation as things have become increasingly expensive. The previous figures were not flexible enough. This will address that. Then and there's a recommendation to follow this. We next covered the fleet plan review. The committee reviewed the update for the 10-year fleet plan. The city is now halfway through that plan and is starting to see the benefits of the new equipment, mainly with lower repair costs. Due to supply chain issues and lower interest rates, the debt we've taken on in the earlier years has been lower than we anticipated. However, inflationary pressures over the last 2 years have been significant on many new vehicles. The plan it can still be balanced with less debt than anticipated, but that debt will need to continue for 1 additional year longer. The contribution to the equipment reserve will also need to be increased by 5% to keep up with inflation. After the 10 years, it is hoped that future equipment purchases can be funded from that reserve that we're building without requiring future debt. The fleet plan model is built into the capital plan each year, and there's a recommendation to follow. Next, we discussed the comprehensive fees bylaw update. We reviewed fee increases effective for comprehensive fee bylaws for January 2023. At this point, the committee chose not to adjust business license fees, but we'll be keeping an eye on that along with general business taxation rates. And Director Bolt will be covering that off in detail, but there was a recommendation for reference only that we proceed. We moved on to a couple of spending issues. One of them, our fire chief will be covering off later on, so I'm going to give him the honor of sharing that with us. But it boils down to we need a little bit more money for a fire truck. The next issue, which is brought to our FSAC's attention, was the lighting on our footbridge. As part of the 2024 capital plan, staff have researched the cost of replacing the decorative lighting, and the current estimate is $350,000. However, there has been repeated vandalism on the bridge, such as cutting of lights and stealing cables. The city has put through already an insurance claim related to damage, and repairs have been made once already. The bridge has now experienced another significant vandalism incident, And now a legitimate concern presents itself as to whether or not the city should replace the decorative lighting. Staff have considered various ways to prevent access to the bridge in terms of the wiring and the lights, but the engineering recommends no significant retrofits to the bridge structure itself for weight concerns and whatnot. So the bottom line is we need some options, and staff will be bringing back a list of options for consideration by all of council. We then covered off the third quarter capital update. The committee reviewed the update and are pleased that many projects saw completion this year, specifically the landfill berm, the child care center, or the rec center bike parks and trails. A very busy year for the city. A few projects are still in progress, and I actually, when I wrote this, I think the footbridge plaza and trail lighting may be complete. I'll defer to the city manager on that, but it looks good. And of course, LHTAKO DENE Park still has some work to be done in the spring. But we hope to see all those complete by early 2024. The budget survey is now live, as many of you have seen it, and that final survey was approved at our meeting and of course is now available. So the recommendations. FSAC recommends to council approving the revised purchasing and disposition policy. So I would make that recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Vic. Councillor Elliott seconding. Thank you. Any discussion on that one? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried? Thank you. And I noticed Councillor Rudenberg there, so thank you. Okay, so go ahead, Councillor.
Okay, so continuing, the fleet plan review, that FSAC and the FSAC recommends to council to reaffirm the vehicle policy, replacement policy CF12. I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Goulet, seconding. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councillor Vic, back to you.
And for information only, we're going to be, as discussed, Director Bolton will be covering the comprehensive fees bylaw update, and our fire chief will be discussing the increase to the fire truck replacement. And our next meeting has already happened, and I'll be reporting on that very soon, but not tonight.
Okay, thank you for that. Anything further on that particular agenda item? Okay, now we move to council reports and discussion items, and I guess I'm the next one up regarding board highlights from the Cariboo Regional Board for October 20th. UBCM Fire Department grant application. The CRD has applied for funding on behalf of its 14 volunteer fire departments to purchase new equipment and training. Applications for up to $30,000 for each fire department will be submitted to UBCM to purchase turnout gear, handheld tools, self-contained breathing apparatus, and other equipment necessary for fire protection services. The funding does not include major equipment nor infrastructure purchases, as these are not permitted under the funding program. There was discussion on the Anaheim Lake Airport Terminal building expansion concept, and it appears that Zernhelt Timber Frames has been awarded the major construction contract valued at $550,000. There was an interesting discussion on the emergency management legislation regulations feedback. I won't go into detail on that one. And then I also have board highlights from the November 7 and 8 meeting. November 7 was a committee of the whole, and November 8th was the regular board meeting. At the regular board meeting, Area H, Canham Lake Forest Grove Director Chair Wagner was re-elected as chair, and Director Neufeld, Area E Director from Dog Creek and South Lakeside, was proclaimed, or elected rather, the vice chair. We took another look at the updated solid waste management plan, and that solid waste management plan was reviewed and approved by council at a recent meeting. And I will say that it's coming up at the upcoming board meeting on, I believe, December the 10th, and I will be away, and so will my alternate, Councillor Rudenberg. So, but the final decision on that won't be coming down until early in the new year. But nothing has really changed on it since we looked at it at a recent meeting. Financial planning for 20 to 24, I guess this is a 5-year plan, is underway. And there was some interesting discussion, the way that it's put into the comments here, that we dissected departmental work plans feeding into the budget, and healthy discussions were held around service levels. The budget will again be reviewed by the Finance Budget Committee on January 11, 2024. At that meeting, final budgets and work plans will be received, and the new for the North Cariboo Recreation Park, Central Cariboo, and Solid Waste Management and Rural Refuse Services. The board turns its eye to impacts of provincial housing legislation, as do all regional districts and predominantly municipalities. I think that the recent housing legislation affects municipalities much more than it does regional districts, but they're certainly on it, and they agree that more information would be needed, particularly around any new regulatory requirements. There's public engagement to be sought on a proposed sewer system for Bushy Lake, and it was rather interesting that as the mayor of a municipality that immediately butts up to Bushy Lake, that I did not get to vote on this, and I pointed out the fact that the very next item on the agenda was replacing the doors on the Legion, or a public building at one of the rural communities, and I would be able to get to vote on that. And I sort of pointed that out, that it was kind of strange that, because Bushy Lake is in our fringe area, but needless to say, a $50,000 request for a community sewer system feasibility study in Bushy Lake was deferred by the board for 6 months, along with a request for additional public consultation. The board noted that no recent public engagement had been done to determine the community's desire to pay for a community-wide sewer system, and it would be a hefty bill. So there's more to come on that. And finally, the board received an update on the community works funding allocations, and I won't again go into more detail on that. Yeah, I'm sorry, I said that the next meeting is on December the 10th, it's on December the 8th. So that concludes my report. Are there any questions? Okay, so thank you for that. Now we're going to move to city staff reports. And we're going to move item K12 to the top because, as I said, Chief Reichert has to get to fire practice tonight. So I'm going to go to the Director of Development Services to present the report on item K12. I'm sorry, I've got the wrong staff person. Oh. That's okay. Stay right there because you're coming up next. Okay, Chief Reichert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate moving me up to the first of the list here. So I'm asking for approval from council for the purchase of a new fire engine. We went through the RFP bid process. We received 4 bids from fire truck manufacturers: Fort Garry, Rosenbauer, Hub, and Commercial. The RFP bids were reviewed by fire department staff, and an evaluation criteria process was used to determine which fire truck manufacturer would be selected. All 4 bids exceeded the original cost of $1.2 million. They were all higher than that. I would like to award the bid to Fort Garry Fire Trucks. Fort Garry Fire Trucks meets and exceeds all RFP requirements and is consistent with our current fleet, layout, and design, while still maintaining best value. They do have the shortest delivery date, which is 18 to 20 months. They're a Canadian-based company out of Winnipeg, Manitoba. They have a designated emergency vehicle technician who does all the warranty work for Fort Garry, and he's located in Houston, BC. They also have emergency vehicle technicians that specialize in electrical components, and they're based out of Vancouver. So we have good support there. Yeah, in addition to the Fort Garry fire truck, they're consistent, like I said, with our current fleet right now. We have 2 Fort Garry trucks previously that were built by them. So. And the Fort Garry fire trucks comes in at just over $1.422 million. $400,000 of that will be coming from Fire Equipment Reserve, and the remaining amount from the Growing Communities Fund Reserve.
Okay, thank you, Chief Reichert. And you see that you've got the recommendation, Councillor Elliott. You're moving the recommendation, and who's seconding that? Councillor Goulet. Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Chief, for this. Just for clarity, because of the time delay, are we locked in at this price? Because there was some concern that it could change in the amount of time that we have to wait for that machine.
No, I actually talked to the manufacturers, their sales reps, and obviously things have slowed down with after COVID, and he assured me that the price would be the set price.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
No more questions? Okay, so do we have a resolution? We got that. Okay, so any further discussion? No? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Chief. You can get back to work at the fire practice. Okay, so the next one is item number K9, I believe, and that goes to you, Director Turner. I was a little ahead of myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to buy a fire truck too, though, please. The purpose of this report, however, is just as exciting. It's format and character DP review for the construction of a new Wendy's drive-through restaurant. This will be on the corner of Newman Road and Balsam Avenue. You're going to see in the report that this development meets most of the criteria with regards to our zoning bylaw, our OCP. No variances are required. So we're pretty excited about how this development is going to fill in our continue to fill in our area in the South Quesnel area. The couple of items that I do want to bring forth, though, are a couple of things with the zoning, the parking. First of all, the parking. There's plenty of parking. There's no parking variances needed, but the parking is it is such that it leaves a lot of room for snow storage on site too, which we're very happy about that amount of parking. We think that it's going to be sufficient for that and contain that snow on the site as well. Access and circulation. There is concerns, as we all know, concerns about some access and circulation issues in that area. As such, the proponent provided us with the traffic impact report, and we had some discussions through that report, and they've addressed the majority of the concerns with the accesses right in, right out only on off Balsam, and having restricted access as well off of Newman. So, and that's been designed by the traffic engineer. There is a request or there's a note in we did have some discussions on the traffic report, and there was an updated report that was provided. This updated report did note that there is likely need to extend Balsam Avenue in the future, or widen Balsam Avenue in the future to its constructed site. So we will be looking at that and some of the off-site servicing and finalizing the details of those later on in the process. This is because, of course, as you know, we have our master infrastructure planning being done right now, and so we don't want to compromise anything that we'll be planning in that area. We are going to ask our consultants to look at this area a little bit more quickly so that we can take advantage of those and any recommendations from that group. But we will proceed with a servicing agreement that will allow for the off-site works to be agreed to prior to building permit occupation. Is there any questions?
Yeah, any questions from council at this point? Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And then just bear with me here, just because I've got two different pages. So just with the traffic analysis here, when we're looking at Newman, so that's going to be a one-way out onto Newman, just to go right, or are we able to turn left as well coming out of Newman?
It'll be a right out only.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought, but for clarity, that's very helpful because you've got the Tim Hortons exit right across the road, so that would be tricky. Yeah, so besides that, I was really happy with how extensive the report was, that we've done the traffic analysis, that there's a ton of parking. It looks good, and I think it's something that could potentially be very positive for the community. And when we're ready, I would move that recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So you're moving it, and Councillor Vic is seconding it. Any further questions, Councillor Vic?
Yeah, I'll echo everything Councillor Elliott said. Specifically with the right hand on Newman, which I think is essential. When you say for widening Balsam, is that theoretically to include turning lanes to eliminate any congestion that could theoretically pop up there?
There could be a possibility of that. Again, we're going to wait for further discussion under the master fees bylaw. Definitely, that's a consideration in there.
Okay.
The current width of the road is not to the standard of our servicing bylaw either, though, so it should be widened to be of a standard of that road anyway.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? I just want to say that this is a very courageous move by a local family in these uncertain times, and kudos to them. Well done. And I've got to say that I've seen a lot of these applications come across our desk, but from a staff position and also from a councillor position, and this is one of the cleanest applications that I've ever seen. There are virtually no red flags, and so therefore, being that there's no red flags, we should give this the green light. So I'll leave it at that. So we have a mover and a seconder. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And good luck, Bendy. Okay, so the next one is we're going to go to item K1, which is admin report 0124, City of Quesnel comprehensive fees and charges amendment. I'm sorry, did Councillor Rudenberg, did you have a comment? I wasn't really paying. Okay, good. Just trying to stay with it here. So we're going to item K1, and this is admin report 0124, Director Bolton to report.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. So the purpose of this report is to review with council the recommendations for fee updates effective January 1st, 2024, and proceed with the first three readings of the City of Quesnel Comprehensive Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw No. 1952 of 2023. So all these fee increases would be effective January 1st, 2024. One of the ongoing challenges faced by the city is inflation, like everyone. This has had a significant impact on the city's capital projects and operating costs through wages. Many of the increases proposed are to ensure that costs are covered and that there's adequate reserves for capital required. So the Financial Sustainability and Audit Committee has reviewed and recommends these proposed changes. There is a list in the financial implications of all the changes. Many of them are fairly minor. I'll just point to some of the more significant ones. So for water utility fees, once again, we have some very large projects in our 5-year capital plan that we have to get done, including a new well. And so we will be recommending increasing water fees by 10%. So this would be an increase to a single family dwelling of $26.08. For sewer utility fees, again, inflation is a big factor here in our capital there. So a 5% increase is recommended for sewer fees, and that would cost a single family dwelling $14.64. Garbage fees, we haven't increased them for quite some time. So it was recommended an increase of 15%. So the small can will now be $115 a year. Landfill fees we're not currently touching. We're going to be reviewing all the information we got from the CRD about landfill bans and then coming back in the spring with some recommendations of what to do up there. And then, yeah, just some other minor changes all listed there. So the recommendation is that council proceed with the first three readings of the City of Quesnel Comprehensive Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw No. 1952 of 2023.
Okay, thank you, Director Bolton. Moved by Councillor Vic, seconded by Councillor Elliott. Do we have any discussion? Having not hearing any, I know that we are into the age of inflation, and we just got to bite the bullet and hunker down. So, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Director Bolton. Okay, next. Oh, you're still up. We're going to go to Admin Report 0624 SPCA Contract. Director Bolton to report.
Thank you. So the purpose of this report is to seek council's approval of the attached one-year extension with the BC Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, the SPCA, to act as the pound keeper for the city. So the current contract expires at the end of December, and the attached contract is for another year. It will have an inflation increase built into it. That number just hasn't come out yet. It's determined in December, the number that they used. But the recommendation is the council approve the attached contract with the BC Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals for 2024, and that the mayor and corporate administrator be authorized to execute the agreement.
Thank you, Director Bolton. Okay, before I'll take a motion. Councillor Elliott, Councillor Goulet. I just want to ask Director Bolton if there's any further movement on trying to bring the regional district into this function, at least minimally.
We as a city haven't tried recently. I don't think the SPCA has approached them because they've been told no numerous times in the past. So it would be up to council whether they wanted to try to go ask again.
Thank you. And I don't want to make it sound like I'm picking on the regional district tonight, but a lot of our functions and services overlap into the CRD, and it would sure be nice to see them come to the table on some of these items that undoubtedly benefit them. So we'll keep our we'll keep to the grindstone on that one. So we have a motion that's duly moved. Oh, Councillor Elliott.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for mentioning that. And it is important. I mean, we get the blanket, there's nothing we can do about this kind of situation because we're a different kind of function, and I get that, and it is true. But as you mentioned earlier, there are discretionary funds that each director has. So, there is a possibility of movement on some of these things. For example, the possibility of the Seniors Council or the SPCA. These are important things. So I think we should be continuing to try. So thanks for bringing that up.
And yeah, thank you for that. We will keep forging ahead on that one. We haven't had the vote on that? No. Okay. So all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next item is admin report 0524, snow contractors liability insurance. Director Bolton, you're still up.
You bet. So the purpose of this report is to request council to approve the addition of 2 of our snow contractors to the city's liability insurance by the way of a service provider agreement. So the city has used this option through MIABC to add the snow contractors to insurance by the way of a service provider agreement for the past few years. It is financially difficult for some of the city's smaller contractors to get snow liability insurance, and the city needs these contractors to maintain our levels of service. So the recommendation is that council approves the service provider agreement between City of Quesnel and Kelly Kirkham with the date as set out in the service provider agreement, and then that council approves the service provider agreement between City of Quesnel and Kodiak Mechanical with the date as set out in the service provider agreement.
Okay, thank you, Director Bolton. Mover, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Vic. Any discussion? This is pretty well straightforward. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Now we're really making some headway here. So now we're going to go to Admin Report 0324, Municipal Finance Authority 2023 Equipment Financing. Director Bolton to report.
So the purpose of this report is to request a resolution from council to approve the equipment financing through the Municipal Finance Authority for the equipment in the 2023 capital plan that were to be financed. So as part of the 2023 capital plan, council approved the purchase of $860,000 of mobile equipment as required by the city's fleet replacement plan. As per the capital plan, $630,000 of the mobile equipment was to be funded using the MFA equipment financing program. The current interest rate is 5.62%. So the recommendation is that council of the city of Quesnel authorizes up to $630,000 be borrowed under section 175 of the community charter for the municipal finance authority for the purpose of purchasing mobile equipment in 2023, and that the loan be repaid within 5 years with no rights of renewal.
Councillor Vic, go ahead.
I'll just move the recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, and Councillor Elliott seconding. Before we call for the vote on that, I do have a question for the Director of Finance, and that is, it's noted that the interest rate being charged is 5.62%, up from 3.34, but today the announcement came out that interest right now has dropped from 3.8 to 3.1%. Will we be stuck with that 5.62 rate through the duration of this 5 years?
No, the rates on the equipment financing are all floating, so they change daily. So that was the rate at the date I wrote this report.
Thank you for that comforting reply.
Yeah.
So we have a mover, we have a seconder. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next item is it is a release extension for the city radio towers, and I'm just trying to find it here. Yeah, it's a admin report 0424. Director Bolton, you're sure busy tonight. Go ahead.
Yeah, you bet. So the purpose of this report is to request council's approval of a lease extension for the city's radios located on the tower at Sugarloaf. So the current lease is with SBA Canada, which expires at the end of November. This lease extension is for an additional 13 months to the end of 2024. The cost of this lease is $750 per month. This lease used to be with Quesnel Communications, but SBA Canada acquired the tower during the term of the current lease. They actually lease the land from us, which the tower sits on, and then we lease the tower space for our radios from them. So there's a bit of a net there. These radios provide links to the airport, pellet works, and video cameras in various locations. We are looking at various alternatives such as fiber, but for now we do need these radios. So the recommendation is that council approve the city entering into the attached lease amendment with SBA Canada ULC, and that the mayor and corporate administrator be authorized to execute the agreement.
Councillor Goulet moving, seconding Councillor Vic. Any discussion? Okay.
Councillor Rudenberg had her hand up for a second there.
Somebody
That's
had their
okay.
hand.
I was just,
Go ahead.
I was either moving or seconding it. It's all good.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Councillor Rudenberg. At the time, your image is about the size of a postage stamp, so it's pretty hard to see. So thank you to Hawkeye over there for noticing that. Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder, don't we, Madam Clerk? Yeah, Councillor Vic and Councillor Rudenberg, right? Oh, did you have a question? I did. Go ahead.
Just for Director Bolton, so the term of the extension is 13 months. Is that sufficient time to research an alternative to the radios?
Yes, we believe it's more than enough time.
And execute the change?
Hopefully. Yeah, I mean, one of the options is still that we continue with the tower too. That's one of the options.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on this item before I call the question? Okay, calling the questions. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, the next item, and thank you, Director Bolton. You had a little bit of a marathon going there. So the next one is to admin report 0724. No, pardon me, 0224, and this is Finland Forestry Delegation Manager Robinson to report.
Great, thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is on page 72 to 76, your report, and what I'll be reading from tonight is from pages 72 and 73. So the purpose of this report is to update Council on the recent forestry delegation to Finland that was organized by the University of British Columbia. So the summary, in October 2023, the city's Forestry Initiatives Manager was part of a 31-person delegation to Finland. Dignitaries from BC included academics, community forest reps, chief foresters from West Fraser, Dunkley, Canfor, LHTAKO, and the Ministry of Forests, as well as other industry leaders. The purpose of the trip was threefold. First, to observe alternate harvesting practices and land management techniques to increase BC ecosystem health and help to interrupt the wildfire cycle that we're right now in. The types of nimble machines used in Scandinavia to harvest trees are what BC requires to increase forest health, decrease wildfire, and maintain fiber supply. Number two, to explore supply chains that enable value over volume. That is the new provincial mantra in forestry right now in BC. And this involves supply chains with end products that will help reduce waste in the forest, and district heating is part of this. Number three, to learn about the training and human resource development needs for alternate machines and land management practices. And so there are no recommendations. This is for information only, so I'm just going to skip to the next page under background. During the 10-day delegation, the group received presentations from various Finnish government agencies, academic and industry experts, and leading technology companies. We toured several machine manufacturers, a world-class pulp mill that actually didn't smell at all because they capture the gas and use it as a byproduct or a bioproduct, and various district heating plants, as well as multiple forested and harvested blocks to look at pre-commercial and commercial thinning. The key learnings for Quesnel from the Finland tour include, and I should say, but are not limited to, the first is land management. The forest thinning that we saw and the fiber utilization are critical for our community wildfire protection and Three Rivers Community Forest. The second is forest manufacturing, seeing a fully integrated circular bioeconomy with sophisticated supply chains, district heating, and decreased reliance on petrochemicals gives us a good model to emulate. In the training sphere, the knowledge transfer for advancing a training hub here in Quesnel, which we're actually currently working on with our Finnish partners and the College of New Caledonia, as well as some other academic institutions. It's going to help students learn how to operate the types of machines. And where we visited this place called Riveria in Finland, they've been operating since 1971. They're a vocational school, and they start kids as early as the age of 15. And we think that could be a potential here in Quesnel. And lastly, the relationship building and the building of public trust in forestry was an important takeaway. There's some cultural differences in Finland that I think we can learn from. And for us, we need to start managing our forests differently. The wildfires are a clue to that. And in Finland, there's an interesting urban and rural alikeness where we don't have that here. Rural and urban people alike in Finland value the forest, use the forest, and see it as a part of their identity. So here in Quesnel, we have the forest landscape planning process and the Three Rivers Community Forest, and both of these are helping build more public trust and participation in forestry, and I think that the City of Quesnel has a large role to play in this. And so you have other supporting documents as attachments to this report, but that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Well done. Any questions? We don't have anything to vote on. Is there no recommendation? This is for information only. Go ahead, Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you very much for the extensive report. It sounds like it was just very, very positive and looking at different aspects. I think sometimes I feel anyway that we're, kind of cutting edge on some things, and I think maybe we are, but there's obviously some things we can learn, and this report is great. The one thing I wanted to point out that you skimmed over is that Helsinki is 92% heated by district heating systems. That's amazing. I think we've got a lot to personally to dig into and try and understand how that's working out for them. But thank you very much for the report.
Okay, thank you. Anybody further? Councillor Rudenberg, you're good? Okay, thank you. So we don't require any further discussion on that, although I would be interested in seeing some photographs of this specialized equipment that is easier on the forest landscape than what we have. It sounds like an interesting concept. Okay, so now we go to staff report, and this is admin report 0724, Gas-Off Road bylaw number 1933 and 1934, City of Quesnel official community plan and zoning bylaw amendments, final reading, Director Turner to report, page 76.
Thank you, Council. And this normally wouldn't come with a council report. It's just that the last readings, the third readings were in January, so I wanted to make sure you were clear on what these bylaws were again. And again, it's just the subdivision off of a single detached dwelling, off of a mobile home park. All of the requirements have been done now, and staff are satisfied that third readings can be provided to these bylaws. The recommendation is that council provides third reading to zoning official community plan amendment bylaw number 1933 and zoning amendment bylaw number 1934 on lot 1, district lot 3948, Cariboo district plan 12692 to permit the creation of a new single detached dwelling lot.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Elliott is moving final reading, and
Sorry, for clarity, you said third reading. Is it third or final?
Final reading.
Okay,
I say
do.
final.
Thank you.
So Councillor, who did I have? Councillor Elliott? Councillor Rudenberg, okay, we have a mover and a seconder. We're moving right along here, so is there any discussion on this one? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next, we have Admin Report 1224, Project Status Report or Update Report, City Manager Johnston.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the purpose of this report, which is attached, is to just bring a project status update to council. In previous years, we brought this to the executive committee, and this year it was suggested by the mayor that we actually bring it to regular council just to provide everybody, all councillors, but also the public, more of an opportunity to see what the city's been working on. And what this does is it really helps to set the stage for our upcoming strategic planning cycle and our upcoming budget, which is, as you know, is happening right now. We're just at the start of that process. So this allows council to really understand where we're at with various projects. These are not just capital projects, they're also various just initiatives that we're working on or other strategic type issues that we're dealing with. So I'm not going to go through the projects. I know staff will be disappointed. They wanted to hear me go on about each of their projects, but I'm just laying this report on the table for you, council, so you can look at it. If you have any specific questions, we're happy to answer those questions, or if you have any in the future as you go through it in more detail, please just fire those questions to us. We're happy to answer it, but we're not going to go through it in detail now. And I don't require a resolution. This is just for information purposes only for council. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I just want to point out that it's good that we have this document here in front of us and in front of the public on the public agenda. There are 8 pages of projects in fine print, so you can, if someone's got a couple of hours, and I encourage them to read through it, there is a lot of information there that really shows how busy we, as council, but more particularly how busy staff is in keeping all of these fires burning. So we appreciate that. I had someone, Councillor Elliott, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And yeah, I was just going to say exactly that. So kudos to staff, because I know it took time to actually lay this out. But it is, I think, if anyone's interested, this is an important document to take a look at, because there's a lot going on. And further, just looking at the document and the way it's created, it's very informative, but very, very easy to read too, right down to the color coding of what's in progress and what's been completed and what's been deferred. So thank you very much for all the hard work.
Okay, so thank you. Anybody else on this one? Okay, so we don't have anything more on that. And now looking at the agenda, we've already dealt with item 9, which is the Balsam Avenue Wendy's project. So now we go to Admin Report 09-2024, and this is for the Quesnel Telecom Society zoning bylaw amendment bylaw. Final adoption. I'm going to go to Director Turner. And Councillor Goulet, you're going to excuse yourself from this one?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Executive Director. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this report is form and character review of a 34-unit apartment dwelling and site layout for a new comprehensive development zone. In 2020, the proponent proposed a 5-story, 34-unit apartment dwelling located between Quesnel Telecom Society building and daycare. All 11 properties that are part of this property will be consolidated as a single entity and rezoned as a comprehensive development zone, as is laid out in the zoning bylaw. The site design includes parking for all uses, re-established accesses, new sidewalks, and landscaping to create a cohesive site. Staff has worked with the proponent and their consultants and have reviewed their development permit application. Their application meets the requirements of the development permit area and meets a number of the objectives and guidelines of our form and character development permit area in the West Quesnel village area. The parking of the site, all layout. They have proposed a number of 49 parking stalls across the site, some with covered parking, which is underneath the building. They are including 2 accessible stalls. 3 stalls will be used for EVs. 4 stalls will be adjacent to a lane, are to be used for snow storage during winter months. All minimum parking standards in layout dimensions have been met. It should be also noted that there are 15 parking spaces outside with 48 bike spaces and 2 scooter spaces available on the first floor of the building. Access and travel flow, there will be a main access to the site via North Fraser Drive. This will include a one-way alley for the covered parking. Stalls 37 to 49 will be accessed via the laneway. The rear laneway is only approximately 3 meters wide, which could prove difficult for vehicles to pass one another. All traffic circulation areas and parking stalls will be surfaced with surface with pavement. The analysis of the floodplain, this has been established to our floodplain standards, and there's no concerns. The reason why the parking is on the ground floor and the building is elevated is to meet the height requirements. As you can see in the report, it is quite a nice-looking building. We're very excited to see this facility finally finally being finalized in terms of the DP and the zoning amendment, so that the proponent can get on with getting funding from BC Housing to have this built. I just want to go into the recommendation. The recommendation is that Council approve DP 2023-65 for the Comprehensive Development Zone on lots 4, 6 to 15, Block 14, District Lot 386, Cariboo District Plan 772, subject to the following being reviewed prior to building permit issuance. 125% of the estimated landscape cost is to be secured as bonding. They must enter into a servicing agreement for any off-site works for the building permit phase, and must receive the second phase landscaping plan following the building permit issuance.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Elliott. And before we, and Councillor Rudenberg, just note we still do barely have quorum, so we're good to go. So I have a mover and a seconder on the recommendation. Is there any discussion, question? Councillor Elliott.
Just a quick comment, Mr. Mayor. I'm excited that this is the phase that we're getting to now. It's been a long time coming, and hopefully, as you mentioned, that BC Housing is able to step up with the funding on this very important infrastructure for the city.
Thank you. Councillor Vic.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And as Councillor Elliott said, it's very important, and specifically for this area, this revitalization in this area is critical. The only small question I have is there was a concern from Public Works regarding the snow storage. Was that concern addressed, Director Turner?
That concern, we will be working with the proponent, like I said, with the servicing plan to make sure that the parking stalls are adequately, we address exactly where they put that snow storage.
Okay, thank you. I do have one question, and this question is not in any way pointed at this particular application. But I recall that when the application came before this council some time ago, that the parking, or at least a good portion of the parking, was on the ground level below the apartments above. Has that changed?
No, in fact, there's a much additional parking across the site as well as that under building parking.
Yeah, the reason I ask, and I just want to say that I'm not pointing at this particular application, but I'm seeing that that with electric vehicles, that there seems to be a growing number of concerns about fires from lithium batteries. In fact, one country in the in this one of the Scandinavian countries has actually prohibited electric vehicles from going on ferries. And I'm just wondering, that being that you're in that line of work, are you hearing anything on that so far?
Not professionally. I've seen a couple articles the same as you, but nothing significant.
Okay, it's just something that we should be keeping an eye on. Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder. Are we all done with discussion? We can call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, you can call Councillor back into the room. And the next, next one is Admin Report 1024, Request for Direction, Zoning Amendment Applications for Vape Stores. Director Turner to report.
Thank you, Council. And this, again, isn't the direct approvals for these vape stores. This is just getting your direction on where to go with zoning amendment applications in these cases. The Ministry of Health is now restricting the sale of flavored vape products to age-restricted retail spaces. Enforcement of the new changes begins January 1st, 2024. Businesses that previously sold vape products in their stores, among other products, are now required to develop completely separate retail spaces for these products. 2 gas stations have since created new retail spaces to sell their products without permits in the C4 zone. The building inspector has placed do not occupy notices on these spaces. Each business will require a zoning amendment, a development permit, and a building permit to legalize the new spaces to continue sales. Staff are recommending creating a use of vape retail to permit this use on a spot zone basis. To expand on this, there's quite a bit of detail in here that I'm not going to go into 100%. I'll deal with it in terms of questions, in terms of the background. But as it's stated in here, there's been a change in policy that's made a number of these retail venues that sold vape products previously to just start creating spaces. This has happened in other communities, as we're understanding, as well as in Quesnel. I think there's just been a lot of miscommunication, misunderstanding of what these facilities were supposed to do in terms of creating these new spaces. There was some discussion with both retailers that they felt that they just had to work with Northern Health to create these spaces. Of course, that's not what was required. Northern Health does not permit vape stores. There's some confusion on that too. They do have regulations that they inspect stores to make sure that they're following those regulations in terms of the type of product and how they sell the product, but they don't permit stores. That's what we do in terms of zoning and in terms of building permits and DPs in terms of form and character. So there's a lot going on with these shops, but because of the high amount of nonconformance that we are hearing is happening with these vape shops, that's why we're requesting that we do it as a spot zone and then permit them or have that regulation up front to look at each vape store individually as they come across. What this would do right now is currently in the downtown area in West Quesnel area, you could have a vape store. It would be a permitted use, I'd say. This policy would make any new vape store have to go through a zoning amendment. And again, we're kind of thinking that's a good idea given the amount of noncompliance we're seeing. So I'll go to the recommendation. The recommendation is that council direct staff to draft an amendment to bylaws to amend the City of Quesnel zoning bylaw number 1880, 2019, to create a new principal use for vapor retail sales and permit on a spot zone basis.
Okay, thank you. You've heard the recommendation, Council. Anyone wishing to move that? Councillor Elliott, Councillor Vic, questions? Councillor Vic.
So, sorry, I'm just trying to navigate through this so I can understand it. So existing stores that sell vape would be beyond the reach of these new regulations or these new spot zones that we create? It's for only future newcomers to this field?
Correct. Obviously, we've approved an e-vape in South Quesnel that would continue. I mean, it's already been spot zoned for that purpose. There is an e-vape downtown that would also remain in that status. I mean, it's already approved, but any new vape stores that are developing would be required to get the spot zone.
Okay, and concurrent to that, you've given examples in the report of 2 spaces that are not conforming that have do not occupy. So that's separate to this per se, like they have to conform before you'll allow sales in those 2 spots?
Those 2 spots require zoning amendments because they are in zones that don't currently permit what we call retail sales. Retail sales break out from, they are really only allowed in the West Quesnel and downtown areas. They're extracted from retail sales that are permitted in the highway commercial zone as more specialty stores, to be defined in the West Quesnel and South Quesnel areas. So that's how we treated it. That's why we zoned it separately in South Quesnel for the e-vape, and that's what we'd have to do here. But we're just looking for direction on how we want to go ahead with zoning across the board for these shops, as I think they're going to come up in other places as well.
So is this similar, not exact, similar to how we proceeded with cannabis retail?
Similar. The cannabis retail, we put a max number of stores on it, though, 5. This is similar, although it's not legislated that we have to do this. It was more directed that we when all that came to bear with cannabis, that there was a need to sort of permit cannabis because it was extracted out. That's details. In the end, this is very close to cannabis retail zoning.
Thank you for the clarification.
Oh, Councillor, City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So while I'm not suggesting that council kick the can down the road on this one, there's a lot of issues here with vape zoning, and what we haven't done is referred this to PABCOM for working through some of those issues. So depending where council feels, if you have clarity of it, by all means, proceed. But if you think there's bigger issues we need to dig in, or if you're wondering about maximum number of vape stores or what areas you want to see vape stores or proximity of vape stores to other types of activities, you could send this to PABCOM for a bit more work refining that before it comes back. I'm just saying that's an option. It's not a recommendation, just an option. It's always open to you.
Thank you, City Manager. I'm looking at this, and it appears to be as clear as mud in some respects. I have to wonder if a vape shop that is spot zoned under what is being recommended here, would that vape shop have to have a separate entrance, for instance? Would it have to have a fire exit, parking, bathrooms, the whole works? Or could it just be an appendage of an existing business with a wall around it?
Thank you. And a lot of that is actually specified by the provincial regulations in terms of the new regulations that are going to apply in January state that it has to be a separate retail entity. So could it be attached to the same building? It could be, but it couldn't have a doorway in between. So you could have movement of staff or patrons in between the 2 different retail retail spaces. But that's, again, their regulations. What this also allows us to do with this spot zone is allows us to have a little bit more formal conversation with Northern Health and make them aware of some of these facilities. They have a big concern that they're finding these facilities as well after they're set up.
Thank you. So what I'm reading into this, that if either one of these two locations, because they're outside of the presently prescribed area, they would have to have a separate staff for the vape shop as in addition to the gas station, and that you couldn't walk between the two of them. So therefore, a separate outside entrance would be required. Am I right?
That is correct, but again, it's their regulations, not ours. That is correct, though.
Okay. So do we have a motion on the, go ahead, Councillor Vic.
I'll make the motion, but I would add on to the very end that your draft go to PABCOM. So I'll make the motion to direct staff to amend bylaws, to amend the City of Quesnel zoning bylaw number 1880, and then et cetera, and present to PABCOM.
So you're presenting the recommendation from council to amend the bylaw accordingly, but you're punting that recommendation over to PABCOM. Is that just so that everybody's on the same page here? So you've moved that, and Councillor Elliott has seconded it. Go ahead.
We actually had Elliott and Vic moving the original motion, so
okay,
that
so
could be an
can
amendment.
we carry on with that same motion with the addition of the extra at the end? Okay, so we have that nailed down. So is there any further discussion on this matter? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Council. Okay, next we're going to go back to Manager Reid for Admin Report 14/24 Northern Development Initiative Trust Annual Grant Applications.
Thank you. So this is a report that we bring every year. The purpose is to gain council's approval to submit applications to NDIT's annual funding programs. And the summary is below. We have the Economic Development Capacity Building for $50,000, grant writing support for $8,000, requiring $2,500 from the city, which is part of the Economic Development Coordinator's salary, and the Facade Improvement Program, which has no cash cost to the City of Quesnel except for staff time to administer the program.
Thank you for that. Can we do this all in one, or do we need three separate resolutions?
We need separate resolutions to attach to each application.
Okay, I understand that we need a resolution for recommendation number 1, but recommendation number 2 is kind of a double-barreled resolution that can be dealt with under one resolution. Okay, so on recommendation number 1, a mover, please. Councillor Goulet, Councillor Vic. Discussion. All in favor? Carried. Recommendation number 2, which is the double-barreled one, mover, Councillor Runberg, Councillor Elliott. Discussion. All in favor? Carried. Recommendation number 4. I guess
Sorry, it should be 3. That was a typo.
I had that little
There was a
question mark
third
there,
one that got deleted.
I kind of looked at the second barrel of the second one thinking that was number 3, but we're on the same page now. So we have recommendation number 3, and that is the application for the $20,000 business facade improvement grant. So mover Councillor Vic, seconded Councillor Goulet. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next report is Admin Report 13/24, Maximizing the Economic Impact of BC Winter Games. Manager Reid, over to you.
Thank you. The purpose of this report is to receive council approval for up to $10,000 of council initiatives funds to be used towards marketing tactics during the LHTAKO Quesnel 2024 BC Winter Games. So we've pulled together partners that we've worked together with in the past under the name of the Business Support Team and talked about how we can best make a great impression on visitors during the games, maximize the visitor spending during the games, and encourage games visitors to return to Quesnel. Some of the tactics we've come up with include providing a made in Quesnel snack for hotel guests at check-in, also to be available at the visitor center, promotion of available winter activities during the games with a landing page, rack card, and a pre-written letter home, promotion of unique Quesnel shopping experiences and promotions during the games, promotion of summer and winter return to Quesnel giveaways, promoting both summer and winter activities and driving traffic to our tourism website while getting new newsletter subscribers, social and digital campaigns that will promote the contest entries and drive traffic to the website, and a 3-sided table talker for hotel rooms, restaurant tables, point of sale locations featuring winter activities, summer activities, and make the move links, encouraging people to move to the Cariboo region with one theme per side. Our total project budget is $28,000. And we also have some free tactics that just take some time to put together, which include ensuring business owners and frontline staff are aware of the games and prepared to make visitors feel welcome and are prepared for peak times, providing free space for families who may be visiting for the games and need a place to go with young children away from sport competitions, providing a co-working space for parents or officials who might be working remotely, and welcoming games visitors and athletes on all digital signs in the community. So the recommendation is that Council approves the use of up to $10,000 of 2023 Council Initiatives funds towards business support team tactics supporting the economic impact of the LHTAKO Quesnel 2024 BC Winter Games.
Okay, thank you. And that's from the 2023 fund? Okay, just checking. So do we have a mover? Councillor Vic is moving. Councillor Elliott is seconding. Any discussion? Councillor Vic. Pardon me, Councillor Elliott.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Maybe to Director Bolton, just on where we're actually standing and the council initiative funds, what's remaining?
There's approximately 98,000 still of the 2023 funds.
Thank you.
Okay, so any further discussion, questions? We're good? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. I'm seeing the end of the page here. Admin Report 15/24, Director Turner on Housing Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this report is to obtain council's approval to set up a housing solutions table as a select committee. In summary, housing has been a key strategic initiative for council for several years. While there has been many successes in stimulating some housing developments, more work is needed to increase the supply of housing in the community. Currently, Councillors Rudenberg and Elliott are the city's designated housing initiative representatives. The establishment of a select committee to review needs assessments, housing policies, initiatives, and strategies will assist the city in accelerating those tasks and formulating future housing strategic goals. Topics for the committee's input will include vulnerable population and services review, consideration, and policy option recommendations, identification of policy on lands for supportive housing, discussion of workforce housing needs to identify strategies to support, input on housing needs assessment development, and implementation of resolving policies, review of new housing legislation, regulations, and inform revisions to municipal land use policy, which is, we know there's a bit coming up, identification of lands for future housing needs. It is recommended that there's a number of stakeholders that I've listed here as recommended for the committee. There's a few that I recognized thereafter that are still missing off that. It would be First Nations, Children Resources, Seniors, as well as the CRD. So I will add those in. The recommendation is that council approves the formation of a new housing table as a select committee and appoints Councillor Elliott as chair and Councillor Rudenberg as alternate chair, and amends IWC 17, council committees and appointments policy accordingly, and that the chair returns to council with the draft terms of reference for recommendations for appointments to the committee.
Thank you for that, Director Turner, and I just want to say that as I plowed my way through a lot of that new legislation and supporting information, I was thinking, boy, this needs to go over to PABCOM, or in part, and I thank you for sort of saving the day and coming up with the recommendation that we have a select committee on housing solutions, and I really like the name Housing Solutions because it certainly, that drives the whole point. So any further discussion?
I'll move the recommendation.
Councillor Vic is moving, Councillor Elliott is, or Councillor Goulet is seconding, and I'm waiting for Councillor Elliott. I thought maybe you'd have a comment.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I do. Yeah, I just want to thank Director Turner for providing this information. It's very important to the community. It's the direction that we should be moving in. You're not wrong. There's a lot coming out of the legislation, and I'm just trying to wrap my head around it as well. And thank you to Councillor Rudenberg. I know she's going to be there by my side, and we'll do the best work we can.
Okay, thank you for that welcome news. So now let's vote on it. All in, oh, no, we do have, yeah, we have a recommendation. It's duly moved and seconded. So now I can call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Now we move to council information package, and I'll just keep this brief because we do have another meeting coming up. I guess it's not 8:04, it's only 7:04. That clock looks worse than it really is. But this is a letter that we received from and it's addressed to myself as mayor and to Quesnel City Council from Rally the Globe. And you'll remember that about a month and a half ago, we had something like 75 cars from all over the world, vintage cars that were actually, I kind of found out that they were going to be passing through Quesnel, and that they had about a half an hour to an hour stop, rest stop at the Cariboo kart racing track. And I got a hold of them and said, you know, could we arrange to have your photograph taken with each individual car in front of the gold pan? And they said, yeah, that is a pretty good idea. And I said, we would have one or two Mounties in red serge. Well, then that set the whole world on fire. And they were so excited about that. In fact, if you go into the Rally the Globe website, which is worldwide, I mean, these guys just rally year round. And on the front cover of their magazine, regarding the Alaska to Mexico run, which this was a part of, guess what's on the front cover is our two Mounties in front of the gold pan with a couple of their cars. In fact, they were so impressed that now they're considering, and they come through every 3 years on this rally, and they're wanting to, they're looking at the idea of overnighting in Quesnel for 2 nights because they enjoyed their stay here so much, and so that's a real feather in our hat. So I just wanted to sort of bring that to your attention. The next is a correspondence, and that's a letter from the Lawn Bowling Association, dissolution of organization and license of occupation. So, Madam Clerk, if you could just read that into the record, or the gist of it.
Received November 8th, 2023, from the Quesnel Lawn Bowling Association. They've discussed their situation with their association president, and they've agreed that they are going to give up the premises in West Fraser Timber Park there. It says they only have 4 members playing. The annual costs are too much for them, and they would like to, they will, as per their constitution, any funds or assets are to go to local charitable organizations. And at present, I will be paying any expenses to repair the cut in the fence. I'd then prefer to get together with someone to, sorry. Oh, I think that had already happened. So the city manager and Director Norburn have gone to look at the facility. So Byron can probably give you a little bit more on that.
Okay, thank you for that. City Manager, did you have something to add here? Because I'm just wondering what our next step is.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So staff did go and do a little tour of their building, and along with the president who showed us the issues. The building generally is in pretty good shape. It's reasonable shape for the condition. They've done a good job trying to maintain it. The issue for this club, of course, is that they just don't have the member base to maintain it anymore. I did tell the president that by turning it back into the city, it's very likely that its use as a lawn bowling area will be discontinued, because there's no point the city maintaining it for the small amount of interest in that sport that seems to remain in the community. So what I would suggest is that perhaps, depending where council wants to go with it, is that we reach out to some of the other organizations to see if there's interest in potentially using that. I'm hoping by bringing this letter to council, probably the word will start to get out there that building is going to be vacated. But potentially other users or potentially organizations have been looking for some space, and it's a pretty reasonable space. Like I said, it is serviced with water. It's not heated, which is interesting because it looks like a good building, and then you go inside and you realize it's unheated. So it presents a few challenges by itself, the fact that it's an unheated building. But yeah, it will be available for use again. It is also possible that the city may want to maintain that as rentable space by groups doing activities down in the park or something. At this point, it doesn't look like there's any uses that the city itself for city purposes would use it for. We just don't need space in that area. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. City Manager. Any further, is a resolution required, or is this just for information at this point?
I would say a resolution is not really required. Our next step is that we will put this out and see what community interest. If council has something different in mind, then by all means a resolution would be fine. But if that's where council wants to go, we're good with it.
Yeah, thank you. And I must say that it was that low-life, cowardly act of breaking in and thieving from a volunteer organization of seniors. I mean, how low can you go? Thank you for that, City Manager, and we'll all keep our eyes open to see if we can find some other use for that facility. And again, it's too bad that this happened, but it just seems to be the way these days, unfortunately. Okay, thank you for that. So now we move to bylaws. Bylaw number 1905 was dealt with previously. Bylaw number 1933, City of Quesnel, Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw, Gassoff Road. I see that that's up for final reading here.
They've all been addressed under staff reports.
Over the page, I didn't flip the page because it says it. Yeah, they've all been addressed. You got me on that one. So, okay, we're done with bylaws. We have no new business. Changes to upcoming meeting schedule. There are no changes, although I will say that at the next meeting, Councillor Elliott is going to sit in for me because I'm taking off for the sunny south for a couple of weeks. Did you have something, Madam Clerk?
Strategic planning on December 12th.
What did I miss?
Oh, sorry, just a change to the schedule. There'll be the strategic planning on December 12th.
Oh, okay, yeah, rather than a council meeting, right? Wouldn't there be normally a council meeting on that day, or is that
It's Jack. We're just waiting to hear if that's moving forward.
Okay.
But it would just be an hour prior to
that will be
planning session.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. We have no changes to committee appointments, although we did deal with that tonight, and that will be brought forward. Announcements on past, present, and future events. Okay. Go, Councillor Elliott.
Well, I should mention that Councillor Rudenberg and myself were at the torch lighting ceremony for the BC Winter Games. and I'm sure other councillors probably were as well, and a lot of staff. And it was a fantastic event. Hundreds of people showed up, had a blast, and it's exciting to see the energy in the city, and can't wait to get everything started in February. There's so much work going on right now. You wouldn't believe how many directors, but we still need a lot of, I apologize, Mr. Mayor, you were there. You made a speech too, very eloquent, I must say. And the theme really was celebrating, but also the need for volunteers in the city. We need 2,000 volunteers. We've got a number of them now, but please, this is a great event, perfect for the city. And if you can volunteer, please do. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for that. You saved me, because I've got it right here, the Winter Games torch, and I'm looking at the clock, and it's 13 minutes after 8, and I'm thinking, we've got another meeting, but it's not really 13 after 8, it's 13 after 7, so it's all good. So, having said that, gallery questions, anybody? No? Okay, so a motion to adjourn, and we will be moving into a closed session immediately after this, after about a 5-minute break. Councillor Vic, you're moving adjournment. Councillor Elliott, you're seconding it. All in favor? Thank you, everyone.